Hello, hello, hello. I am hopefully audible and hopefully viewable. Please do put in the live chat if everything seems to be working, that you can hear me all right. That kind of feedback is valuable. Happy Monday afternoon. The first Monday afternoon of this glorious 2024 September. I hope that the month is treating everyone well thus far and continues to do so. Thank you for joining us here in the live stream. If you are joining us in the live stream, and if you're watching this offline, then hello to you in the future. Is it still September where you are? I'm sure I could do a joke about wake me up when September ends, but that's all I've got the energy for, really. I am Jonas. I'm Jonas. I work with Intergames. I'm the community manager and events lead with Intergames, and this is one of the events that we plan. We've done a few of these now, and we're back doing another portfolio live, but this one's in animation. It's our first one ever. We're going to be looking at animation portfolios, and the way that these portfolio live events work is, rather than sort of a portfolio review where, you know, maybe you sort of book a one-to-one with someone and they're able to give you a bit of their time and they can give you a bit of feedback on the portfolio, and you go and you kind of scroll that away and you've got that personal information, but only you, one person, benefited from that. We try and turn these events into something where that same kind of personal advice and feedback can be given, but many can benefit from that sort of that care and attention. So with the portfolio live events, we're going to have a professional animator join us here on the live stream. We're going to be taking a look at some animation or gameplay animation portfolios that have been submitted into the Intergames Discord server, and then we're going to be sort of just going through those portfolios, really just looking at, you know, all the good, all the could be betters, and by sort of doing this with a nice selection of portfolios, we're hoping that every viewer, no matter whether it's your portfolio being looked at or not, you'll be able to really glean some really great advice, you know, some must-haves, some maybe must-don'ts, that's a phrase, you know, some general sort of like do's and don'ts for your portfolios and things you can learn from. So thanks for joining us. It's not me who's going to look at your animation portfolios. I simply wouldn't dare. I dare not. I will shield my eyes and cower in fear. No, we've got a professional. We've got a real professional coming in to do all that, and their name is Ross. Now, Ross is going to join me on stage. There you are, Ross.
Hello.
How's it going? Hello.
Yeah, it's going pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I dislike how humid and warm and yet not nice weather. It's gloomy weather.
Yeah, it's all in one.
But
it's absolutely bizarre out there, especially
just
down here in Cornwall.
You're
Well,
down
it's
in
always
Cornwall.
strange. Yeah, it's
Oh,
always strange down here.
oh, you poor thing. No, no, no. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Well, thank you for joining us all the way
I
from
know.
Cornwall. That's super cool of you, Ross. And thank you so much for well, you actually the one were like, Jonas, can we do some portfolio reviews and animation?
Yeah.
You came to me. So
Yeah.
thanks
I'd
for
love to
having
do
that
some.
impetus.
It's great to sort of give back and try and help people figure out what they need to do to hopefully get into the industry, especially in times as they are right now. And it's always good fun. We'll have some fun today, I'm sure.
Good. I really glad to hear it. Lovely to have you here. Super excited to see what happens. Firstly, before we get onto some portfolios and start showing off some work, let's chat a little bit about you, Ross. You're not some random individuals pulled off the streets of Cornwall. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your relationship to games, animation? Yeah.
Yeah, so cool. Yeah, so I'm Ross, obviously. I'm currently a gameplay animator at Rebellion. I'm also a committee member at Limit Break Mentorship as part of the training team. I was previously at Firesprite and Frontier Developments. I actually started off in indie though. So before then, I had two different indie companies that I co-founded and co got rid of. Previous games I've worked on Sea of Thieves, A Pirate's Life, Warhammer, Age of Sigmar, Realms of Ruin, the longest named game ever. And then when I was in indie, I worked on a game called Karate Crab, Soria, and a game called Chopping Onions. But now at Rebellion, I am currently working on Atomfall, and recently, as in last week, I just worked on a game called Puff for the Game Maker's Toolkit game jam, which I'm very proud of.
Brilliant stuff. No, we were just discussing as well that
Yeah.
it's weird. The Puff, the game of a pufferfish. You might think that it might be one of the only games in a game jam that features a pufferfish as a character,
Nope.
but weirdly, no, it's not. There are quite a few,
Yeah.
and what a strange circumstance and commonality that is. If you in the audience, if you've ever been tempted to put a pufferfish in your game, please tell us where that idea came from. Did it come to you in a dream? Is it your star sign? Let's start figuring out the science behind who's putting pufferfish in their
It's not
games.
even my first game with a pufferfish in, so that's pretty crazy.
Well, there you go. There you go. Well, I guess that's going to be the trend now, 2025, 2026.
Yeah.
Pufferfish are going to be the main protagonists of all of our AAA video games.
Yeah.
Because that's how quickly games are made. Anyways, enough silly poking holes at games industry. Let's take a look at some portfolios.
Yeah.
By the way, if anyone does have a question in chat, and I can see one, I will answer it. If you have any questions in chat, I will give you a little text answer where possible, or Ross and I will do like a little Q&A session at the end of the portfolio reviews. So by all means, if you've just got any comments as we go, please do just put them in. We will be reading as we go. And if it's anything like really pertinent, I'll jump in and read it out. But if it's like a question that we can answer at the end, we will 100% do that. And in sort of a bit of context, if you're not already a member of the Intergames Discord, there's a little link in the YouTube. Whoops, sorry about that. There's a little link in the YouTube description down below that says how to join our Discord. If you join our Discord, there's like a channel. It's called Portfolio Reviews. You can put your reels and things in that there. We've already got a good selection of animation reels for today. And if we've got time, we will absolutely just like see what we can glimpse from some others. And if we don't do it today, don't worry. I plan to be doing these events quite regularly. So it might be a little while till we come back around to animation, but like your portfolio will be in that list of animation portfolio reviews for future use. So please, like, don't hesitate. With that said, Ross, are you happy to share your screen with me here in this little program that we're using?
I will. Yeah.
And everyone, I'm gonna leave Ross to it. I'm gonna fade into the background so that I can down this mug of coffee and get some energy in me. But Ross, you know what you're doing. You're the expert. So Ross, I'm going to give you your screen.
Cool.
And I am going to leave you to the audience. Everyone, please be very kind and lovely to Ross. Please do feel free to ask questions and chat as we go. And I shall see you all on the other side of this wonderful event.
Wicked. Thank you, Jonas. So, hi, everyone. first of all, as you can see here, I've got a website up called Sync Sketch. So in the games industry, a lot of times this is used to help actually critique portfolios, because essentially you can just chuck in a animation reel and go through it frame by frame, add notes, add pictures, and add comments as well. So I have got 4 here, and if you don't see your name, like Jonas said, don't worry, we might be able to get to more later, as well as some of the things I'm going to go over here will just be really good, like rules of thumb to have as an animator. You may hear me say things about like foot sliding or knee and elbow popping, which I'll try and sort of explain as we go forward. But yeah, let's get started with Michael's here. I'll just sort of like play it through at the moment to start with, which hopefully comes through all right on screen. Um, Really cool, strong intro here, and I'm just going to keep stopping and starting. I think this is like one of the main things about an animation reel is you have to start with your name, usually what year it is, and probably best to sort of say that you're a gameplay animator here as well. And 100% make sure that you have your email in here, because when animation leads go through these, they have thousands of animation reels that they have to go through, and you have to make sure that your information is very, very easily accessible to them so that they can actually email you back if they really love your work. Um, and Michael's got a really cool, strong and striking animation here to start. And throughout the actual reel, as we go along here, towards the end, you've put in like a few characters that you've made, which is really cool to see. Um, and that may be something that could go onto your actual portfolio separate from your reel, which I can talk about a bit more later. Um, Essentially, if you're applying for animation jobs, you only want to actually have animation in your reel. It may be cool that you've done some VFX on the side and it may be like really great, or you've done some modeling or 2D drawing. All they want to see in your reel is that you understand the animation principles, which I can go into more if there's more questions about it at the end. That you understand body mechanics and that you just have a good sort of idea about appeal in animation in general. So while I think it's really cool that you've made these characters, I would say leave them out of the reel uh, at the end, which was shown like towards where is it? Yeah. Um, this is also a good point as well about like these gameplay bits here. I'm sorry, I'm going to jump all around here, but these bits here don't really show your animation skill. They just kind of show like, oh, you've worked on a game, which is cool, but they don't show actually any animation. So it's very cool that you've made these projects, but again, an animation lead will not be actually that interested in that part. So yeah, this is quite a cool, striking intro here. You always want to start with your best animation, and that can mean a multitude of different things. It could either be something that is the most eye-catching, or it could be something that really shows your skills in like the quickest amount of time. Um, so if we go down into an animation here that I saw Michael post in the Discord recently, um, first of all, it's really great that you're clearly using reference. That's one thing that must be done if you're a student, if you're a junior, if you're mid-level, if you're a senior, if you're anyone. Reference is so important to understand the motion of something. So it's really great that you used reference for this, Michael. So one thing specifically that I saw as I was looking at this is one thing that I'm going to talk about quite a lot, and that is foot sliding as well as balance. You cannot move both of your feet at the same time and remain standing, uh, unless you're sort of like ice skating or something like that. If this is kind of like a difficult concept to grasp, it's very much worth to just try and do it yourself and shoot some footage of it. You need to have your weight, which is like we sort of the main control here is called the cog. You want it to be over 1 foot usually, and that foot has to be load bearing, so it has to remain where it is while you move the other foot to its next position so that you can then move your cog back onto it. um Sometimes it sounds like it's a bit like obvious, like obviously, but like it's crazy how often you see it with student reels where they're just moving the feet. So it's not Michael, it's really good that we're catching this stuff early on, because when I was an animator, I would do these things for quite a long time before somebody told me stop doing these things, because they will be picked out very, very easily by animation leads, and to them it shows that you don't quite understand those kinds of body mechanics. So no foot sliding, and make sure that you have your weight on the right foot, whichever foot you're using, the right foot, not the actual right foot, when you are changing positions here. Another thing that's it's more of like a visual thing. So this is something to keep in mind when everyone's making reels. I sort of struggle to. I mean, it's cool that there's like there's lines, there's like a grid going along here, but I'm sort of struggling to see where the foot is actually planting. And the best way to do this is to go on Maya and press that little tick box that turns on ambient occlusion, because it basically creates contact shadows. And this allows the viewer to actually see when your foot is very close to the floor, and then they can obviously determine when it's touching the floor. Another way is to just add lights. Um, and there's this really cool plugin called Awesome Lights, and I'm going to kind of create a list of links and post it in the Discord after this portfolio review session. And Awesome Lights is in there. It's literally a thing where you drag and drop it. You can create a floor with a grid. You can create lights with really cool shadow, and they're usually like a 3-point light thing. So it looks really professional, and it's super easy to add in. And honestly, it will just increase the quality of your reel, the way it looks, and it'll also help with viewers being able to read what's happening in the scene better. But honestly, this is a pretty cool shot. I would almost say that, like, if you go through this, it does kind of feel like he's too off balance here. And the easiest way to fix that is to just bring this leg down. I'm terrible at drawing, by the way, which is not a good thing. But I would bring this foot down sooner, so that then he catches the weight as he lands. So you've already got this actually happening here. But if you just bring it down a little bit quicker, it will help support that balance and that weight shift. Because then you can keep moving that cog, the center of gravity, over in this direction, and then you can start moving. If you say like the cog is over here then, and it's over the top of this foot which is not moving, you can then start moving that foot wherever you want, because the character is balanced on his other leg. So I hope that makes sense. Um, let's keep going through and see what else we've got here. This is quite cool. This bit here, you just got to keep in mind that every shot in your reel is very important to try and show the employer that you know how to animate. So if you have something in your reel like this, which is about 2 or 3 seconds of very, very still movement, except from the little bits here, this is actually sort of wasting time, where you could be showing another shot where you've done some sort of like parkour shot or something in such a cool way that like they've never seen before, but instead you've got quite a static shot here, that I would consider like removing or trying to put something else in there. I can talk a bit more about like the actual length of reels later on as well. If you have any questions about that, please put it in the chat, and I'll try and get to them at the end, because I may forget. This one here is, what did I say about this? So yeah, this is a really cool green mech. But I think the idle's a little bit too static. It's just kind of like what I was saying before, is that like there's not actually a huge amount of animation being shown here, which I think again means you're kind of losing that precious time that you've got with the lead animator to look at. And also keep an eye on like extremities like this, because it's just sort of rotating on its own. If you had like a like the mech in more of like a up and down position, moving side to side like this, then you could get really cool like overlapping on the shoulder pads as you do it, and then it will just add a little bit more movement and more character to this mech. So definitely got to keep moving here, but I will just quickly point out knee popping. So knee popping here is when you have your controller in IK, which means inverse kinematics, where you actually control the joint chain with the handle of the feet. And when that is essentially extended far beyond where it should be. So the cog here is too far away from the foot, and it causes the knee to just pop like that. And it happens on elbows as well. If you stretch out a hand, it just pops like that. This is a big no-no. 110%. Every single person listening, make sure that these are not in your animation reel. It's completely fine again, Michael, that we're catching these now, because again, I wasn't told this for a long time when I was going off on my own after uni, and I was doing like my own indie games and stuff. Like, it's very important to not have these, because employers will notice, and it will prove to them that you've kind of not thought uh, more about the rig and the way it should move, and basically things like that. If you want to have a very straight limb, switch over to FK, which is where you move them, bit by bit, and then you can stretch out the arm. I'm going to just quickly have a look through. There's another thing here, just the on this walk, it doesn't quite loop correctly. And that's a thing where you'll be needing to get into the graph editor in Maya and making sure that the loops on each tangent, make sure they flow into each other from beginning to end. And that's something I can go into more as well if people want to hear more at the end. So I'm gonna keep moving through here. So cool, real Michael, but there's a few like fundamentals there that you have to keep an eye on. So Ellen here is next. So look, just remind myself where we are. Okay, yeah. So Ellen, interesting reel. It's very, very cool, but there's actually quite a variety of styles and types of animation, and that isn't necessarily what you actually want. It's very cool to be able to show like all of those things, but really, I think at the end of the day, when you get this job, it's going to be your job that you're doing 5 days a week. You should animate exactly what you want to do. And then if you find the right people, you will get that job where you're doing that. If you've got a wide variety like this, it means you're not kind of like honing in on one specific thing or another. So I will go through. So this red dude at the start is pretty cool, but there's one thing here to think about, is that he is quite a I mean, he's literally like an apple shape, and during these frames here, all parts of him go up at the same time. So what you could do here is add in what we call overlap, which is one of the animation principles, where you would actually have his leg, great drawing again, you would have his leg lag behind slightly. You could even have his arms here lag behind slightly, just to add a bit more um, motion to it and add a bit more like drawing the eye to it. And it's the same when you get to the top here. So when you get to the top, you've actually got a little bit here on the head where it's like this section of the head is almost like coming up more, like it's doing that overlap. But you could even then bring this hand up, or bring this one out a bit. No one take the mick out of my drawings, please. Yeah, so I think those are that's definitely something to keep in mind with these, is like overlap. It just adds so much more detail to your animations, and just make sure that this is not just one big shape that's all moving at once, because it's losing that sort of appeal, I reckon. I quite like your spacing going into it here is quite quick and fast, which is quite nice. But yeah, this shot here is so drastically different from your next shot, which is what I'm saying is like, this is really cool. I want to see more of this in student reels. I want to see more of this in student portfolios. I want to see your animations in game. Gameplay animation leads, they want to see that as well. They want to see that you've not only just tried to animate something in Maya, but you've also tried to implement it yourself. When you become a game animator in the games industry, you are not just an animator anymore. You're a game developer. And that is a very important thing to keep in mind, is that you are not just there to animate something in Maya and just chuck it off to someone else to implement. You should be wanting to implement it yourself. That should be your animation that you want to see from the start until the end. And that's the best thing about being a gameplay animator, is that when someone presses a button, it plays your animation. So you want to make sure that it looks cool in game. So you want to watch it all the way through. So this is really cool, Ellen. The only thing I would say though it's quite hard for me to actually visualize what I'm seeing here, and that's because the character here is almost the exact same color as the floor, and it kind of makes it hard to sort of see specifically what's going on with the limbs and stuff. So I actually find this quite hard to crit myself. It is quite cool that you've got all of these animations here on the left, but I would almost want you to sort of lock them down in Maya, show me like all the detail you've put into each individual one, and then at the end show something like this, where the character's in game and running through an obstacle course or something. So you're showing the viewer, this is my animation skill, and now here it is in context. Stuff like that is really, really cool. And it's the sort of thing that actually can make you stand out as a junior animator. If you can show that you've got the passion to also get your stuff in game, get it working, people will clock onto that, and they will definitely remember you when you send in your animation reels. Let's just have a look a second, see if there's anything else I've got here that I mentioned. Yeah, same color as the floor. So here's this next shot here is again very different. I When I had my first animation reel that I got into the industry with, I didn't actually have any quadrupeds in it. Um, at that point, I mean, I even now I find quadrupeds pretty hard. They are very, very difficult to get right. Um, and sort of ended up doing quite a bit more of them on Warhammer, but up until that point, I hadn't really done much creatures. I think it's very important to not overwhelm yourself when you're a student or when you're learning. I would almost say, like, try and stick to bipeds, get them looking really, really, really strong before you start moving on to a shot like this, which is incredibly hard to do. It's awesome that you've basically made everything in the shot, but there's unfortunately there's some like um issues with the animation as a whole that I think would take a long time of like a few rounds of crit to sort of get working, because here you've got the unfortunately you've got a bit of locking on the elbow, and that's the weird thing about cats, is that they kind of do lock their arms. Horses do the same thing, but it's like you have to be very specific in how you're doing it and when you're doing it, because this right now, this shape that it's creating is looking incorrect. um I mean, it's really, really cool, but again, it's like I think it would take quite a lot to polish this up. Whereas I think, if you stick to trying to do more biped stuff and getting that stuff in game, and creating gameplay systems like your jumps, or even try and create something like a dash or a grappling hook, and spending your time on that more, I think will actually like bring the quality up for your entire reel. Because people say essentially that like the quality of your reel is set by your worst animation. So if you have something in there and you're not too sure about it, or people are saying to you, well, I'm not too sure about that, unfortunately, you have to think about cutting it. And that is only for the good of you and your reel. It's really depressing when it happens. When I was trying to get into the industry, I had a few friends that were, luckily, they were very honest with me, and they said, this is not working, Ross. Like, none of this is like up to the quality level of other juniors around you. And I had to scrap my entire reel, and it was really, really difficult, because obviously I have no idea how much time you've put into each of these shots, any of you here, but I'm assuming it's hours and hours and hours. If you have to cut them, it is not a waste of time, because you've learned something when you have created those shots, and you've maybe also learned, oh, I can do that quicker next time. Now I know not what to do. Now I know what to do next time. These sorts of things, they're never, when you like, they're not really failing, they're just learning something and then trying to do something different. Okay. So yeah, I wouldn't be sure about having this one in there, Ellen, personally. uh this shot is really charming. I really like this shot. There's something about, like, you've got a sort of a stop motion effect on it. I'll just play it for a second. Like, you can clearly tell this is supposed to be like toys, because of the sort of like tilt shift you've got on it. Um, just one thing to keep in mind here is, as I keep talking about balance, it almost feels like the Stormtrooper is slightly off balance here. I think it's because this top half of his body is almost like leaning too far over this way. And also, like, if you look at where, I know we're obviously in 2D, but you can tell actually just by looking that this foot is further behind this foot, which means that he's almost like completely twisted over looking like this. And I think that would actually cause him to fall over. So make sure to keep that in mind again going forward. But yeah, there's something very, very charming about this shot. And then he sort of stands to attention. Does it show like a huge amount of animation prowess? I don't know. I think there is actually some quite nice, like there's a nice thing to it where it's like the timing of it where he goes like that is really cool. But unfortunately, you've got some elbow popping here. And again, it's fine because we're here to talk about it now. But just make sure that when you've got because this is the hard part. Presumably, you're aiming the gun there with a FK arm and an IK hand attached to it. So you have to always make sure that you're fighting these things. You could probably quite easily fix this by just grabbing his clavicle bone and just pulling it in a little bit, just to sort of loosen up that weird tension you get in the elbow. It would just help so much because I think that's unfortunately letting the shot down. I also think that again, these two feet, I think they're too in line with each other. This foot needs to go back more into the background, and this one back into the foreground, almost like you're in like a combat stance. I mean, you can't see my feet. I don't know why I'm doing that, but basically, like if you've ever done like martial arts or something, like a forward fighting stance is where you have your front leg sort of bent a bit and your back leg is straight, and it's a much more grounded and combat orientated stance. So you need to start thinking about animating in 3D here, because even though your final shot will be 2D, I can see here that these are not lined up correctly, if you know what I mean. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm just gonna have a little bit of water, sorry. So yeah, you even though if you're just animating to one camera, that's really cool for certain things you can do, but do just try and make sure that you're animating in all directions, because it will bring up the quality of even the one camera angle you do have. So yeah, I like that shot. This seems pretty good on terms of weight shifting. But again, like yeah, these feet are too close together on this plane, I think. But yeah, that's a nice shot there. This buzz shot is really great as well. I was looking at it. Of course, like I don't do any real cinematic stuff, so performance pieces and stuff is not really my profession. But I think this is looking pretty good in terms of like appeal and stuff. Um, I'm wondering if there's any room to get. You've kind of got some of it in there. It's just eye darting is really important for shots like this. It looks like you have got quite a bit in there. I think this is um quite a good animation, really. It's very layered. There's lots going on. I'm wondering if perhaps you need to just do some. There's like a weird jolt in the hips here, just down here, just kind of whoop, just kind of shoots back for some reason. Um, yeah, I wonder if you could have more overlap on his left arm here and bring it up and have it kind of come out here or something, just a little bit more, and try and avoid these kind of shapes. I know Buzz has already got weird like wrists, so it's kind of hard to avoid them. But it makes it, if you have it in the certain camera angles like this, it does make his wrist look really skinny. But yeah, this is a really nice shot on here. Again, though, it's not gameplay. So it's important to start thinking about like, do you want to go down the gameplay route or the cinematic route? There's so much stuff that overlaps on them. But if you think about like a performance shot like this is, I don't know how long this is, but it's a few seconds. You could be working on that for ages, whereas a gameplay animator will work on the same 60 frame loop for, I don't know, sometimes a couple of weeks in my experience. So it's like trying to work out whether you want to create stuff that's more performance orientated like this, or something that's going to be played a lot in video games, where it's it's going to be seen over and over very quickly. So it's like you either have all of that stretched out to, and always the performance pieces are usually animated to a camera, or you want something to be more like what you've got here, because these two are very different. This is a nice little shot, but I think there's a few instances where I would say like floaty feet a little bit. There's almost like I want to see feet snap down a lot quicker, I think. And a great way of doing that is to make sure that like the frame before is definitely higher up, and then the contact frame has a linear curve on it in the graph editor, so that instead of it going like and slowing down just before landing. Am I on camera doing that? Yeah, because right now it kind of comes in and it goes and it slows down right then, and that's usually because it's got auto tangents. But if you change that to linear, it just goes straight down, which is exactly how we actually put our feet down on the ground. It's the same with if you do bouncing ball exercises, which I suggest that everyone here does those. um, you'll see that like a ball doesn't just go and then slowly hit the ground and then slowly back off. It goes boing and it shoots off like that. And every single thing we animate is a bouncing ball, essentially. Like the bouncing ball tutorial or activity is so good for that, because it just shows you like how much stuff you can just learn from that. So yeah, I think this is really nice. It's just keeping an eye on your balance, as well as getting those feet to be a bit more snappy. I think there's possibly more you could do with the upper body in these shots, because the top of the body is quite static, but at least you've got like the character looking at things. Yeah, it's quite a nice shot. Um, this here, unfortunately, I have noticed some knee popping, which is going to be my catchphrase now. Where is it? Ha! There we go. So yeah, the knees are locking out or popping here. So this is very important in locomotion, to make sure that you are avoiding this, because again, they keep coming up like this. And again, if an animation lead is reviewing your portfolio and they see this, it's going to actually be very detrimental to you, even if the animation is cool. Um, I'm not sure about his hand position here, although I don't really know how stormtroopers hold guns, but I feel like his hand would maybe be a bit further up here. Also, you've got some like gaps here in the fingers, which I mean, it's not too bad in terms of like the looseness, but you always got to think about silhouettes, which again is another thing I'll be bringing up in the next reel. Is that making sure you can actually see like what's happening if something was just black and white. And the best way to test that actually in Maya is to turn on lights when there's no lights, because then you just get a white backdrop and then your character's black, and you can just kind of see only his silhouette, and then you can work into it there. I think the top of the body on this is a little bit too rigid. I also wonder maybe if that needs another step in it or something before it cuts, because it's kind of hard to realize what's happening before it's kind of over. Also, he's not quite like his elbows down. Um, it feels like the gun should be like in the butt of his shoulder here. His elbow should be up like this, and he should be aiming down the sight. Do you know what I mean? That's the kind of thing that you've got back in this shot at the end here, but obviously without the elbow popping. That's the kind of feeling, because this feels like a combat walk then. So he's almost like looking down his gun. So that's something you could definitely add into there. And then yeah, this last shot, I'm not sure about, because it doesn't really. I'm guessing like this girl gets given the balloon, but you don't really see it happen. And this guy kind of, I think this guy's not hasn't got as much detail as the other characters in your reel. So like, make sure that you start with your best animation and you end with your second best. That's really important to make a good first impression and to make a good lasting impression. So yeah, anyway, great work there, Ellen. I am going to move on to Catherine. Um, this is a really, really great reel, Catherine. I'm going to say again, though, like you've definitely got some really cool gameplay stuff in here, and then you've got two facial capture things, which are like, these two things are so different. It's cool to show that you have these skills maybe on your ArtStation portfolio or something like that. But if you want to go into games, focus more on this stuff. And if you want to go into more sort of facial capture things, then you got to focus more on this stuff. I think it's okay to have some of this in there, but I would say maybe just have like part of this one in there and then cut this one personally. Um, this animation here is it's really good. I really really like this skill, this animation. I think your reel definitely shows your animation skill very well. I think to improve this is to maybe like focus on your arcs. So a lot of people, when they talk about arcs, they talk about, yeah, track, track the weapon as it goes around and blah blah blah. And it's cool that you're using Carl Figgins sword swipe here, but there's clear issues in like the gaps on these. So I wonder if it's worth creating, like, I think you can create multiple locators on them like this and define it. So you could have 4 there, so that that trail actually like follows through nicer, because you're always with like the scythe weapon like this, you want this trail to be like this, right? Unless you're changing the rotation of it to camera, but this one is just an upward swipe, so it should feel like it's doing that. See, this is a really nice arc on. I think maybe you could pull it down here, so instead, at the moment it's kind of going up like this, but you could definitely do more of this and then up and around. um which you've kind of got there. It just feels like this bit here is, it's coming up a little bit too much. So definitely keep tracking your arcs on these. I was looking at your feet as well. They're looking pretty cool here. I also think like people should track everything. Like track knees, track elbows, track feet, track hands, like every single part of it, because it will create really nice arcs on everything. I think just here it's kind of awkward because of what you've got, but it's very difficult to see the character's silhouette here because she's so hunched over. It's just kind of like this very weird shape that's happening. I'm not sure necessarily what you could do. Maybe sort of have a turn a little bit more sooner, or because your previous frame again is kind of this shape, which I think is a bit more appealing. But yeah, this one's feeling a bit weird, and then you've got this kind of empty space here between the legs. I'm also wondering if here you should start prepping that leg a bit sooner, so then you stamp down here like a little bit sooner, maybe just like a frame or two sooner. And I do wonder if her foot, because you are getting this very extreme angle here. And I've used Asri before, and I know that it's quite difficult sometimes to get these feet positions looking well. So I'm wondering if the foot should actually like be here, maybe, um, just in general as she lands, and then it might feel a bit better as well, like coming out of here. And you have unfortunately got a little. I don't know if the knee is completely popped there, but you can feel it. So even if the knee's not completely popping, if you're getting this sort of hyperextension, it does sort of ruin that bit of the animation a little bit, unfortunately. So just keep that in mind. But I think as well, like your foot here, I'm wondering if it's coming in a little bit too soft again. Like here, you should not have a frame. So it's up, it's still up, and then it's down, but you should only have like one frame up and then snap straight down like that, in my opinion. So it's just like this kind of thing, straight down, because then it feels a bit more impactful. It adds a bit more weight to the character. But honestly, this is pretty excellent animation. I really like it. Uh, so yeah, so you got 2 walk cycles in there. I think that perhaps on both of them, she's a little bit too far forward. I would say this is cool, but this one's like way better. And I think again, unfortunately, like it does feel like she's a bit too far forward. So I wonder if like the cog needs to come back a little bit. And I also think there's a little bit of lag on. No, I think it's looking okay. This is a really really cool. Like I would say cut this one, because this one here, it shows that you understand walks. Um, and it also adds has some character nuance, which is a thing that you really need to start thinking about after you've sort of nailed the basics. Is like, okay, I'm an animator. My actual job is to bring something to life, and the best way to do that is to take traits from what we know in the real world and add them into the character. So here she's walking along so confident, like the hip sway is really cool in this. Yeah, I really like this shot as well. So just keep in mind that I think the cog may be a little bit too far forward. Ooh, and also you're getting a little bit of a weird bend in the wrist there. Just try and make sure that you don't bend those wrists too much, because this shape is a little bit awkward. And also keep an eye, like these fingers are quite cool, but there's this old Disney trick. There's a really cool talk about hands that I'll try and put in the links, where like Disney, because this is such a weird shape, Disney will either try and do this or this or this or like whatever, just to try and clump together some fingers so that it's not just this kind of shape. So that's something to keep in mind if you really want to go into the nitty gritty of polish, is to try and keep some fingers together. Okay, so here's like my main crit really for you is that oh, I did say also on this to try and add some overlap on the head, perhaps. So my main thing here for you really is silhouettes, because even though I think this pose is pretty cool, I would say it's teetering on the point of like being off balance, to be honest though. But the worst thing that you can do really is like lose a limb in your silhouettes. Um, so this is really cool, but like her left arm is gone, unfortunately. Like we can't see it until she does a bit of an action here. And again, this is a really great character moment. I think maybe she's feeling a little bit off balance again, but this is really cool. But yeah, again, we go back to losing her arm there. My quick suggestion is to almost like try and do something different with that arm. So I've used one of these bodycon characters to just try and do a quick pose view where like maybe she's doing like a little bit of flexing, or maybe she's like a bit like this and just like not worried, or just doing something with that arm before she then does the blowing the kiss and then goes back to it, kind of thing. So it doesn't have to be like an actual flex. It could be just something like this where she's just got her arm, because you've already kind of got that in the walk, right? The arms out like this already. You've already got the pose, and if you have that there like that, then when she stops walking, she goes back into this. It fits perfectly with the walk. I would suggest doing that, because yeah, it's not good when we can't see an arm. If this was just like pure black, then yeah, you would be like, where's the arm? Do you know what I mean? I hope that makes sense, Catherine, because yeah, you've already kind of got the arm there, so I would go for it and just keep with that kind of pose, because then it would so easily go into the blowing the kiss and then back into that pose. I mean, even that is like, if you move the cog a little bit over here with the arm down like that, I think that's better, just like that. But then yeah, we lose the arm. Okay, so I had some pre-notes for those three, but I'm going to move on to Alexander's now. So I haven't actually watched this very thoroughly. I've seen bits and bobs of it, and it looks really good to start with. So I can tell you've done iAnimate because you're using Lisa here. So drawing the sword out there. I'm just kind of going to go through this a little bit now. Yeah, that's feeling pretty cool. This arm's almost I would say maybe you've got this cool like X here, but it does look like maybe the arm is a little bit broken, a little bit too rotated there. And then yeah, just make sure to track your arcs going through here. So we're here, here, here. I can't draw. Here, here. So yeah, it's good to just draw these on here like this, because it does feel like you are missing. Like I think almost maybe, so this arm needs to rotate down a little bit more so that you get this clean sort of like slash through there, because you've already got that here, and then I think that ending there is really cool and it goes all the way around here. So you want that to be like a around like this, just like a and then off into the background, just like a really nice clean arc going through there. But I think that there's just one pose letting it down. I think it's just this one. So I think if you rotate that arm down so the end of the sword is in line with this kind of line, it'll make a huge difference on that. Nice overlap on the hair and stuff. This pose is maybe a little bit too rigid at the end here. Like it's a nice hold, but I'm wondering if you could do a bit more. Okay. I'd say she's off balance here, unfortunately. I think she needs to get a little bit further over, just because she's starting to move this foot. Like, yeah, okay, so she's already lifted this foot up, whereas it's like maybe she pivots on it, so she stays there, and then her foot pivots around on her toes. So then she can use that energy to push herself up over on top of this, maybe not that much, but like over onto this foot, so then she can reposition her foot a bit better. Because it's a little, I think the problem is like you're posing on it. It's quite good there. It's just that it's a little bit too slow, actually. I think, and this is cool, as in like this and this looks wicked, but I think there's a little bit of a notch there I'm seeing on this. Yeah, so your arm here is this is so cool. Like she's bringing it back, and then bonk, she just sort of hits a wall here on this arm, and then it just sort of, yeah. So it goes back like, oh yeah, this looks cool. Bonk, 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 and then she starts rotating around. You really want it to be like, you want it to all be like one smooth motion. So again, get some tracking. Use the motion trail. If you've got Animbot, the motion trail on that is wicked. I use it literally every day, and I can't animate without anymore. Just make sure that you're tracking that, and you can use the clav. Excuse me. You can use the clav. You can use your upper arm, lower arm, and hand, all to just make that arc so much smoother. Going through there, because it's looking really cool. It just needs a little bit more fine tuning. Oh, and then I think, yeah, we're not. I don't think we're what we're doing here is, unfortunately, we're moving the foot and the cog at the same time, which, if you just try and do that in real life, you would kind of just fall over. You what you want to do is you want to get this back over this foot again, and then move the foot, just like I've sort of said earlier in the review. But honestly, very, very cool. And I'm going really, really nitpicky on this because there's some great stuff here. This run looks pretty cool. I know what Lisa's like, but there is a little bit of a weird shape there on the hand. This guy is kind of, I mean, he's not the main focus, but this I think you could probably make this pose cooler, to be honest. He just kind of looks very NPC right now. And he's also, get him to actually look at the action. He should be looking at Lisa coming in to attack him, because right now I don't. It looks like you haven't got any control on the eyes. I don't know if he does. I think he has eye controls. Just make sure that he's actually looking at the action, even with that head or not, and also his knee is popping here. So it's great because Lisa's obviously the main attraction here, but don't forget your secondary characters. They are just as important to make sure that they look cool, because then you can also add in really cool arcs with them and stuff. So yeah, okay. So she's sliding through like that. You are getting a little bit of clipping in the floor here. Just make sure you polish that a lot, and more clipping there. I know these things are just like nitpicky, but this is the sort of thing that will help you stand out. I think maybe this is a little bit too extreme. I wonder if you could just lift up this. Look at that great picture. And just roll it on more. This is a really nice little moment here where you just like, you stop and then she comes back in, but I think it's a little bit too slow. She just very linearly kind of gets up here. Whereas like you could really push that timing to be like, okay, she's stopped like this, and her cog comes back like that, and then it's just like you make the spacing a lot bigger, and she shoots forward. That's kind of even. She like shoots forward, then back up to go in for the attack again. And then, yeah, I think she should pull out her gun maybe much sooner, because this is like a really cool story beat, but you pull out the gun so quickly here. She should almost like, when she should be like so cocky at that point that she's just like pulling out the gun. Do you know what I mean? She's like walking up to him, and it's no problem for her whatsoever at that point. Give it a bit more time to get that bit in. You could even like get it, like start bringing out that gun maybe here, And again, if you have any control on the eyes, he's looking a bit dead there, but overall that is a really cool shot. And then she just sort of casually walks away, which is quite funny. Yeah, this is nice sword here. I think again, just make sure you're tracking the arcs on these. I think it's looking pretty good, but this you actually losing your weapon here. It's very important to sort of keep an eye, make sure the viewer can always see the weapon, because it just a little bit is a you can it looks a little bit like flappy, I think, at the moment, as she goes through there like that. Because of that, because you're losing the side of it, you're not quite seeing it for that one frame, and it makes it feel like it's sort of disappeared a little bit here. The arms are okay, maybe colliding for each other there. This is a cool pose. I'm wondering if she maybe needs to get her foot down a little bit sooner on this. Like maybe she gets her foot down here at this point, just because she's. I think maybe as well you could even get her cog down a little bit more, so she's settling into it a bit more. And again, add in that, because it's such a big sword, you want to add in a little bit more weight if you can. I think that would be a good way of doing it. And again, I think you're a little bit off balance here, Alexander. Just make sure that you are pushing that cog over that foot before you bring back, because here maybe you might be all right. I don't know. I'm wondering maybe if it's again a little bit too slow and you need to have the foot planted like almost now, because obviously you're pushing back there, but it does feel like she's maybe a little bit she's not catching herself quite quickly enough, and that might be also due to it just coming down a little bit soft. Whereas I want to, like I keep saying, I want to see people just like snapping their foot down. Like if your foot's here, the next frame it should be planted in some way. And again, doing that with linear is a good way of doing it. And I'm aware that we're almost at the end of time here, but is this guessing this is the same shot but from behind? So this is cool because it imitates like a gameplay camera, but it's a lot harder from these angles because you're getting the sharp end of the blade even more here. So I think the side angle works better. You don't have to put both in there, I guess. Um, you've got like a. I'm just going to keep going until Jonas tells me to stop. You've got like about 10 to 12 frames of nothing here. Just get rid of it. Just like this is cool, like a cool wipe, but maybe just have an establishing shot like straight after a cut, and then just go straight into the animation. And this is a very hard body mechanics piece to get right, but I'd be interested to know who your teacher was for our anime, because these are really really good. I think as well, just keep an eye on. I almost feel like let's have a look. Sorry, sometimes you just have to keep playing through an animation to work out what you're seeing. Just like with anything, like giving and receiving crit in animation is a skill that you just learn more and more over time, and you will do it all the time in your job. Like it's something you can't really avoid doing. I feel like maybe I'm not sure. I feel like something's not quite right with the propulsion of this, but I might have to come back to it at another point. Also, you've got the same shot 3 times. I don't think that's needed really. And that's pretty cool, but unfortunately that shape there is a little bit too extreme, I would say. Also, I'm losing her left arm here completely, which is quite hard. I think maybe this requires a camera angle change actually, because obviously she's losing it right there. But you could almost have it like coming through, um, like this kind of shape. Oh, I've drawn 2 things at once. You can almost have her arm like trailing behind somehow. I don't know. Let's have a look. Oh, and then there's a stumble. That's kind of cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, I think. Oh, I want to see more jiggle on this shoulder pad. I think, because this is a really cool design and a really nice animation there. but I want to see a bit more, like, because you've got some movement on these extremities. Let's get it going on all of it and see what it looks like. I'd be interested to know if you hand keyed the cloth as well there. It's quite cool. If you have, it does feel like this propulsion here is a little bit too much. Like, it feels like it kind of swings over here and then it swings back way too far. And I think it would be a bit closer to down here. But yeah, really, really cool reel there, Alexander. Yeah.
I think that is probably a good time for me to jump in.
Yes. Perfect timing, I would say.
Nice. You were like, I just heard you be like, I'll just keep going until Jonas cuts me off.
Until I get told off, yeah.
What you don't understand, Ross, is like, if you keep going for 3 hours, I'm not going to stop you. This is portfolio gold.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't want to cut it off. But well, yeah, we like going through those 4 portfolios has been just absolutely phenomenal. Like a real incredible breadth of work. And just really appreciating your insights, and definitely, as I said earlier, like the key point of these events is kind of really to identify like common mistakes and the sort of, not the mistake that one person is making on one particular bit of work, but kind of actually to highlight some of the really sort of unsaid mistakes that everyone needs to learn from. Everyone can go away and take this advice into their portfolios. Next time someone says that my knee is popping, I know that's not a compliment. I know that is actually a commentary on my poor, animation or limb stretching, and I don't know all the vernacular for it, but you get the point.
Yeah.
I have so first of all, just a massive thank you, Ross, for taking that time and going through all of that. That's just super cool of you.
It's my pleasure.
I'll say it every day. I'll say it under every breath. Very, very cool of you. Thank you so much for taking all that time, going through all that work, providing all that feedback, and for making it so visual as well, making it so kind of fun and fluid. I do love some of your drawings. There's just some really fun.
They're awful.
I think you just kind of like, you circled that guard's eyes and then said he was meant to be looking somewhere.
Yeah.
And that kind of looked like a face in and of itself.
Oh, did it?
Like
I didn't
2
realize.
dots, like this long arrow.
Like a penguin or something.
Yeah, no. There's some comedy gold in there as well.
Okay,
I promise
good.
you.
Good.
So just an invitation now to everyone who's watching live. If you have any questions, either about sort of anything that you've just seen. In fact, there is one question that I was asked earlier, which I'll parrot that one in a minute. If you've got any questions, Rossi, you're happy to take like 10 minutes, like a short little Q&A.
Yeah, I got time. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. Because we are getting to the tail end of the day here. So if you have any questions, please do ask them. But again, like, please, don't force it. If there's anything that you want to know that you feel wasn't answered in today's event and you don't get around to asking it today, or you're watching this offline, you know what I mean, future tech. If you're watching this from the future and you wish you had asked a question or would like the answer to a question, please do join the Intergames community. The Intergames community, we're born out of a desire to make the games industry more accessible for everyone. We just think that there shouldn't be so many barriers to the games industry, and the games industry has a disproportionate amount of barriers at entry level compared to just so many other industries. Even its tech and creative equivalents really don't demand a lot of the same levels of excellent and kind of pre-portfolio prep and work, etc., as the games industry. So by having events like this, we're not necessarily lowering that wall, but we're hopefully adding another step on everyone's step ladder, making that wall just a little bit easier to climb. So please do jump into that Discord. We have a lovely community. It's got over 9,000 people in it. And a lot of those people are industry professionals who are willing to answer questions, who are willing to have conversations about job applications, specs, opportunities, whether it's doing a course, reading a resource, just sharing some knowledge. It's a wonderful space. And anything, please do jump in and sort of make use of it. And just, if you've got any questions on animation, Ross, you're in that Discord. I know you are. I tag you.
Yeah, please tag me if you've got, like, if I've got the time, I'd be happy to, for anyone into games that wants their stuff looked at. I will try and do it if I've got time. So just tag me in the animation chat if you want to talk about things or advice as well. I'm happy to do it.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. I'm going to read out some questions now for you,
Yep.
Ross. So one of the questions that got asked, it's a little bit more specifically about some of the work that you've just done today. So you were using a program called Sync Sketch, I believe.
Yes.
And so one of the questions that got asked, which is a very fair question, from Shadow Android. Shadow Android says, are we going to have are we going to be able to access the Sync Sketch files? So just, is that something you can do? Is that something you're willing to do? I can help.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Let's do that.
yeah, if
Should
we
be should
can.
be easy. Yeah. It just requires like a link and just the right email address, I guess, and then it'll be sent out to people. So I'm absolutely happy to do that.
Nice. Well, so yeah, if everyone here should be signed up via the Luma page,
Mm.
and we always ask for a bit of feedback after the events, via a sort of, it's a more or less automated email. So what I can do is, in that more or less automated email, we can come up with a little plan for how to get those files
Yeah.
out to you.
We'll sort it.
Otherwise,
You definitely get it. Yeah. It'll be
Otherwise,
fine.
there's
Yeah.
the Discord as well. So
Yeah.
just ping us in the Discord,
Yep.
if we haven't sorted something out by the sort of the end of the week. Thank you for the question. And then Shadow Android, you've actually asked the second question here in the chat, which is, Ross, what are some of your favorite animation resources, books, videos, etc.? Where are you going to learn this stuff?
I think that's a good question because I mean the most classic one is the Animated Survival Toolkit, which is a book by Richard Williams. I've got it right next to me here. It's definitely one that I've read a lot when I was learning, and I've read a lot of it. You know, even now, there's some absolutely great stuff in there about timing, spacing, and posing on like walk cycles and things like that. Just really, really cool stuff. Jonathan Cooper's Game Anim is a book that I would recommend as well because it just goes over things that aren't really talked about that often in terms of like what does this person do in a games company or what should you be doing to become a game animator. It's not specific. It's not. It's specifically about game animation, which is why it's called Game Anim, obviously. Resources. There's so many great YouTube channels out there that are doing really really cool tutorials. I don't even know. I've forgot any off the top of my head. There's definitely loads of people on like Twitter to follow, like Michael Cuevas. Oh God, loads of other people like that. I've got some links again that I will send in the chat afterwards. But yeah, that's it really. That's those books, and then there's a fly on my desk. Go away, please. But yeah,
Nice. Anything that you've forgotten or anything you want to share, like, again, we can make that part of the follow-up email,
yep.
or we can put them in that lovely animation chat in
Hmm.
the Discord. I think that someone's just managed to sneak in a little question, which is excellent. Thank you, L. We'll get this last question in, and then I think we will bring the event to a close. Just a heads up in case anyone's still waiting to press send on a question. But again, if there's anything that you haven't heard today, jump into the Discord. We love it. We'd actually, well, I'll plug a little bit more of what we're doing after we've done this last question. How about that?
Yep.
L asks, how do you see the role of animation evolving in the gaming industry over the next few years? I mean,
That's
how
a
has it
hard question.
changed? Has it changed much since you entered the industry as well? Because I suppose, like, 2 years in the past, 2 years in the future, is there much difference?
That's a tough question. Has it changed? Not really. I'm not concerned about AI, because I mean, even if you have, I think there's a lot of worry. Wow, my voice again. I think there's a lot of worry about mocap coming in and being like, "Oh, mocap is going to replace animators." Never. I mean, even the best mocap day in the world requires animators. Um, I think mocap is really good for certain situations where we need it to save money. I don't know where it will evolve to. I'm excited to see it though. I think yeah, hopefully it evolves into a place where there's more jobs and more collaborative stuff. I think the best times working in the games industry is where I'm not just an animator, I am also a game developer and I'm working with designers and programmers. I think I would like to see it evolve into having that communication just be stronger. being more like creative as a team instead of just being like, you're in this department, you're in this department. We're all a massive team of creative people, so I hope it evolves and keeps going in that direction. You already see it in indie teams, but I'd love to see like even more of it maybe in larger companies as well.
Nice. I think that'll about do it for the questions. Thank you, Shadow Android and Elle for your questions. Thank you to the rest of chat for just sort of for chatting, for being present, for engaging with us. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being just a cool audience. This is actually one of 2 events that we're doing this week with Into Games, and it's relevant to this audience because we do these series of events mostly on Wednesdays called Discipline Deep Dives, where Into Games kind of takes a particular entry level requirement or skill or knowledge that people probably need to work in the games industry, and we turn it into an entire 1 hour long like presentation, subject, and Q&A. And we're actually, this week's one's going to be about animation.
Perfect.
It's going to be specifically more about the tools. So it's going to be specifically more about what are the different softwares. Ross, you mentioned all these plugins earlier as well, and I'm looking forward to seeing that list because I'm sure it'll be relevant on Wednesday to revisit that and say, like, these are the tools that people are using, to assist them, to help them achieve certain things within their, within their sort of technical skill set. Yes, that's going to be on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Most of our events are at 1 p.m. So please do, if you don't know where to find that, jump into the Into Games Discord and you can find it. Go to our LinkedIn as well, and we'll be talking about it. And yeah, hopefully see a lot of the same sort of avatars and digital names there. With that, I think that's just about everything. Ross, is there anything? I'm going to give you just a platform now. Is there anything that you just want to shout out, that you want to plug? It could be, do you have something you want to share with people? Maybe it's a website or socials. Do you maybe just have like these founding words of wisdom in the form of a sort of, I don't know, a poetic Japanese haiku? I don't know. The floor is yours.
Okay, yeah, I guess an animation is never finished until it actually looks good in game when you're a gameplay animator. It doesn't matter how your animation looks in Maya. It's really about like I was saying earlier, taking it all the way from starting it to getting it in game and getting it set up and seeing how it plays and testing it with people, and just that to me is why this is like the best job in the world, in my opinion, is being able to have people. You're like the front line defense against the player, not against them, but with them. That when they press a button, they get to express themselves in their games through your animations. So you better make sure they're wicked, basically. Oh, also add me on LinkedIn or say hello to me on LinkedIn at Ross Thomas Everson if you want to talk about animation, talk about mentoring or anything like that. Yeah, I'm usually always available.
Beautiful stuff. Thank you very much for that, Ross. And I think, yeah, we can bring it to a close. So
Cool.
that's all from us at Into Games. Like I said, event on Wednesday, Discord down below. Please click on it all, love it all, subscribe to it all, etc., etc. All the taglines that a competent influencer would say at the end of a video. But from me, Jonas, you'll simply get a thanks for coming. You've been great, Ross. Thank you so much for joining us. Really, really been just a delight to have you here, and an absolute delight to just see you go through, like so much of your learning and share it with everyone.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Endlessly appreciative towards everyone. Right, with that, I'm going to leave you all with another our little video and QR code for all our community bits and bobs in case I haven't sold it to you enough. Thanks again for joining us, everyone. I've been Jonas. This has been Ross. We've been Into Games. You've been wonderful.